want you to know that in 2020, there were 4.8 thousand pounds of fentanyl seized by CBP. But in 2021, fiscal year 2021, it increased to 11.2 thousand pounds of fentanyl was seized by the CBP. That is a direct result of Biden administration failure policies. Now, here we are in to date, fiscal year 2023, they have already seized 12.5 thousand pounds of fentanyl. The Biden administration is failing this country by not protecting our border and securing our border and stopping Chinese fentanyl from being brought into our country illegally by the cartels, and people are dying every single day because of it.
Okay, so she wants to say it's because of the Biden policies that they're seizing more fentanyl at the border. Well, for once, she's right. I know, go figure, huh? But she's right for all the wrong reasons, for reasons she doesn't understand, but let me tell you what they are. See, her and many other Republicans want to make it seem like a bad thing that they're seizing more drugs at the border, that they're seizing more fentanyl at the border since Biden came into office. They want to make it seem like it's a bad thing. If there was this big increase in fentanyl from the Trump administration years to the Biden administration years, it would show in overdose deaths, wouldn't it? But actually, the data shows quite the opposite. This is what the data shows while Trump was in office. Drug overdose deaths involving synthetic opioids other than methadone, drugs such as fentanyl, fentanyl analogs, and tramadol increased by 45% between 2016 and 2017. From 2017 to 2018, deaths involving all opioids and heroin decreased 2%, 13.5%, and 4.1% respectively. However, deaths involving synthetic opioids, fentanyl, increased by 10%. Deaths involving synthetic opioids increased 48% from 2018 to 2019. Most of the synthetic opioid deaths involve fentanyl. Now this is where it gets really interesting. U.S. overdose deaths in 2021 increased half as much as in 2020, but are still up 15%. Half as much. So while Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Republicans are fear-mongering about more fentanyl pouring over the border since the Biden administration came into play, that's what they want to make you afraid of, but that's not the truth. Doesn't take much critical thinking for this. As much as Marjorie Taylor Greene and all her buddies on the right want to say it's because of the Biden administration's failed policies that they're seizing more fentanyl at the border, well, I think they must be on fentanyl because they're not thinking very clearly, okay? If they're seizing more fentanyl at the border, they're obviously doing a better job. Just like I just explained, the deaths would correlate with the increase, but they don't. The deaths dropped. If the deaths drop with the increase of seized drugs, what's that say? That says the Biden administration is doing something right. And what's it say about what the Trump administration was doing? They were seizing way less fentanyl, and the deaths were way higher.
This big jump, this is fentanyl seized at the border. There's a big jump here, and that big jump occurred around June 2020, August 2020, because I think what's interesting about this is, of course, we had a change in president in 2020 and some changes in border policy, and what we can see here is that the facts show we are seizing a lot more fentanyl. And for me, as a mom, that is a sign of success. I don't want that fentanyl in this country. It is dangerous and it kills people and it makes our communities dangerous. And to me, this is a sign that our Border Patrol and our agents at our ports of entry, which is of course where the vast majority of the fentanyl is seized, as you've acknowledged, are doing their jobs.
Why don't you take the number of illegal immigrants or legal immigrants combined that are smuggling drugs over the southern border and compare that to the number of American citizens that are smuggling drugs over that same border? How many people, comparatively, do you think are smuggling drugs over the border? Do you think it's more for the Americans or more for the immigrants? Huh? I'm waiting.
The U.S. Sentencing Commission publishes data on all federal convictions, which includes demographic information on individuals convicted of fentanyl trafficking. Every year, U.S. citizens receive the most convictions by far. In 2021, U.S. citizens accounted for 86.3% of fentanyl trafficking convictions compared to just 8.9% for illegal immigrants.
What I find interesting is despite success here, what we're hearing is an effort to characterize seizures as failures. And that is a change. So what we've seen from my colleagues is
It increased to 11.2 thousand pounds of fentanyl was seized by the CBP. That is a direct result of Biden administration failure policies.
to me, the fact that you're seizing these drugs is a success.